Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Deja Vu here. This is going to be the final match of Group 10. Going to be Jangbi and Ruby for the right to advance into the MSL. This should be very, very fun. Here's hoping for Jangbi, of course, with my supreme bias that I've got. I actually got to see him 3 times today, so that's kind of cool. Even though he had to lose once, you know, getting to see 3 games, always fun. This is going to be on Circuit Breaker, I believe, if I remember correctly. No, it's going to be on Dante's Peak, sorry. This is going to be on Dante's Peak, Ruby and Jangbi. Ruby starting out in the top left in blue. It said Dante's Peak. This doesn't look... Yeah, okay, yeah, I remember it now. It's just Dante's Peak. You got the corner start expansion, so... Yeah. So what are we going to see from this game? Jangbi's epic, formerly epic PVT is not so epic anymore. Instead, so we'll see what Jangbi has in store. Hopefully it'll be, hopefully he'll be able to do something awesome. And I wish you just go storm Jangbi. Just go figure it out. Get your storms on. Get them working and. Go from there. I think that would be the way to go, but we will see. And Ruby with the cross position, Jangbi could actually 12 next here pretty safely because of the cross position. I don't want to say safely, but it would have a pretty decent shot at making it. But I don't know if he's going to want to after losing the first game to Mind with his 12 next. I don't know if he's going to want to try it again. And I actually really wonder whether or not the players are allowed to watch each other's games during the group, group. Like, did Ruby watch Mind to beat Jangbi? I don't know. If he saw that, then that would actually, I think that's actually a huge deal, because then Jangbi's not, I think Jangbi's going to be less likely to even try a 12 next again. On the other hand, if he didn't scout it out, you know, same chance really of a player going for the 12 next again. If anyone knows, I mean, that's kind of a little detailed rule. So I don't know the answer to that. If someone knows, that'd be pretty awesome. Or if someone, you know, can read Korean or somehow has heard of that rule, that'd be kind of cool. I'm just kind of curious, because I think that is kind of an important point. Instead, Jamie's going to be playing standard opening here. He's got 1 gate with the assimilator already, so we'll probably throw down the core, and then we'll see whether he's going to go for 1 base build, go for Reavers or something like that, which would be very cool, or maybe go for 1 gate expansion. There are a lot of opportunities, a lot of possibilities out of this build. And for Ruby, looks like he's with that frontal wall in, taking his natural expansion, he's going to be able to expand very, very safely and get up his second base, and then a macro off of that. And I think Jangbi should see this coming at this point. That SCV down to 15, 10, 5. SCV almost goes down. He actually had to cancel it. Could not even finish the supply depot. It was so close. So that's kind of funny there. Factory going up for Ruby, but he's only mining 1 on gas, so he's gonna be able to. So he's gonna throw down that command center pretty quickly as well. Jangbi actually getting Dragoon range already. I actually thought, because after seeing this, that he would maybe try and go 1 gate straight into Expo, and just assume that his opponent was going to be throwing down a command center very early, but instead Jangbi actually putting the money into that Dragoon range research. And haven't seen any other tech buildings from him yet. Waiting here to see what he's going to do. And scouting SCV comes in here, and there's a Zealot on the ramp to stop that SCV, so that will be very good for Jangbi. And Ruby's going to be a little bit confused here for a little bit, not entirely sure what's coming his way. Definite thing to watch out for Terran players in recent times has been Reavers. There has been a influx of quality Reaver play from a lot of Protoss players, and there have been a lot of wins in PVT due to supreme shuttle Reaver play. Of course, Stork comes to mind a lot. Cal has done it. I think Bisu has done it recently in the last week or two, in the last couple months. It's just been something that players have reverted to, and it's been very, very effective. SCV does finally get into the base now, and is going to get the scout off, and it's probably going to be very, very confused, just as I am, as to what Jangbi is doing with so few buildings. Finally throwing up another pylon, but really just very low on the building count, and Jangbi actually trying to break down this supply depot right now. He's got that Dragoon covering and actually picking at the SCVs that are in repair. right now, which is just going to be a big nuisance for Ruby until he can get a tank out. There is the tank, so it's going to come forward, and probably Jamie's going to have to retreat here pretty soon. Yeah, he's going to have to back off. But with that Dragoon range, I think he can actually target the supply depot and or the racks without the tank being able to reach. At least, of course, until siege upgrade is finished, and then, well, you know, nothing can outrange a siege tank on the ground. A couple Dragoons coming in here, still trying to maintain the pressure, trying to pick at the SCVs or something like that. Not entirely sure what Jangbi's trying to do here. He doesn't really have much of a chance of breaking this, does he? Does he? Wow, that actually supply depot is actually very, very low. He almost had it broken down, but the siege finished, and I guess Jangbi just didn't want to risk it at that point. Didn't want to risk the siege tank getting off too many shots before he was able to break it down and get in there, especially with the second tank coming in. Second factory for Ruby being thrown up as well. Jangbi's natural expansion is almost completed. Would not be surprised to see him take a third base very, very quickly. Actually, I would like to see him take a third base very, very quickly, just to try and get a lead economically. I think that'll be good for him. Ruby with his tradition, I still maintain that Ruby's still pretty conservative, so I think aggressively expanding against Ruby in the early game is a pretty good idea. And you know, when you scout out your opponent, I think that would be definitely something you want to put. If you were a scout for Jangbi, I think that's something you would want to put in your scouting report. Is Ruby's conservative nature and an opening for aggressive expansion. We do have a couple more gateways coming down there, as well as the observatory. So he's going to be devoting kind of heavily to this two-base build for Jangbi for at least a little bit here. Very, very surprising to me. I really did not expect to see him go with this kind of a build against Ruby. But that's what we've got. Actually, it looks like he is throwing down, sending a probe, maybe sending a probe to throw down a third base. There's something moving across the bottom of the map. What is it? There is a probe. And is he going to take that 6 o'clock base? What's it? Where is it going? Where is it going? Now Jangbi's been forced to kind of retreat. Now with these Dragoons coming back here, it's mostly just to counter any sort of vulture play. Ruby does have pretty solid vulture play, actually. I've definitely seen him in many games play very, very well with those vultures. We saw him in the first game, Ruby in action with his vultures and his mines. They actually really influenced the game. So definitely something to watch out for is Ruby's vultures and mines. Places them very well. Ruby's also putting a third command center inside of his main, so he's going to lift that and take that mineral only. And that's hugging his cliff, whereas Jangbi is taking that 6 o'clock gas expansion. A couple vultures actually are able to sneak by, see how much damage they're able to do. They're able to pick off a couple probes so far, maybe 3, 4, maybe 4 probes, 5 probes, something like that. Maybe 4 or 5 probes total go down. 6, something like that. I would guess about 6 probes, 7 probes, somewhere in there went down to that group of 4 or 5 vultures. So those vultures definitely got their money's worth. But no mines. He got the speed upgrade on the vultures first, so no mines quite yet. Or at least not for those vultures. Actually, looking at the middle of the map, looks like mines are being laid down. They probably just finished, but for whatever reason, those vultures weren't able to lay them in time. Armory getting an upgrade as well for Ruby, so you're going to start working on those upgrades, possibly looking at maybe a 2-1 timing push, possibly a 1-0 timing push, depending upon how well he's going to. Well, he's going to have 3 bases, so I would expect a 2-1 push coming from Ruby after a while. It'll be a little while for that to complete, of course, but probably going to wait for that second upgrade before he pushes out and has that third base established. Vulture's still marauding around, still looking for openings in the defense of Jangbi. This observer is going to be very, very important to clear away mines. That's going to be very, very helpful to Jangbi long term. And allowing these vultures to sneak by, that could be bad if there is a probe transfer on the way. But no, those were actually a Dragoon transfer, if you will. Dragoons were coming into play and able to stop these vultures. And that vulture is going to get a couple kills here on the, not just 1 kill on the transferred probes. So Ruby dedicating very heavily to this vulture harassment strategy. Jangbi able to defend against it pretty well, not great. That vulture run by into the middle was quite painful, actually. 6 or 7 probes going down, but for the most part, other than that, the other couple attacks here at the 6 o'clock, they haven't done too much. Picked off like 1 probe. A lot of mines have actually been diffused, so it's nothing too significant one way or the other for either of these players. We do have Stargate and Temple Archive, so we are going to see a 4 base arbiters, actually 3 or 4 base depending on how you look at, with that mineral only nexus coming up as well. This is going to be a macro fest for Jangbi pretty soon. Once those two bases get operational, he will be able to macro like a fiend, and that will be pretty awesome. And Vulture's going for the run by again. Looks like a lot of them actually did go down. A couple of them did go down, and now they're getting the run by. What are you doing, Jangbi? Bringing your probes off to fight? What? This is just craziness. Losing a bunch of probes. That was just unwise for Jangbi using those probes like that, and lost several of them. Still looks like he's using these probes. He looks like he's trying to get to that Vulture with probes. Well, I don't know what he's thinking. Just needs to send one. Where are you going? Come on, Jangbi, control those Dragoons. There he goes. Finally getting that Vulture. So Jangbi could be a photon cannon investment, could be very worthwhile, but right now there is a push coming from Ruby, a bunch of tanks moving across the map. With the Vulture support is not very large, so there is a vulnerability here. If Jangbi can get those, can get a bunch of zealots produced pretty quickly here to try and fight this, he could actually have a lot of success in terms of breaking this push. This is going to be very, very interesting to see whether Jangbi's able to get enough zealots out to counter this push and maybe do some counter damage. It's going to be very, very interesting. And tanks actually coming to the 6 o'clock base, they're going to tank off this pylon wall. And that's going to be annoying for Jangbi. Just doesn't have the arbiters, doesn't have the zealot count yet to counter this. So Jangbi could actually be losing this base. I think he's actually considering sacking it right now. That's what it looks like to me, that he's considering sacking. He just can't allow Ruby to completely take the high ground. He can probably afford to sack this base as long as he maintains the high ground, doesn't let Ruby take out his mineral only as well. And as soon as he gets arbiters and some zealots out, he can try and pincer this group and try to take it down. I mean, he can afford it as long as he does some counter damage and doesn't lose too much positionally. We do have Ruby taking the 12 o'clock base, so that's going to give him another gas expansion. A shuttle out here looking for some zealot bombs, but nothing to really bomb yet, just because there aren't any, not enough of the tanks are sieged. But Jangbi could take advantage here with the tanks not being very much. Oh, okay, now the tanks are sieged up. Now he could probably do some Vulture bombs or some zealot bombs. Vulture's coming in here again. Now they're going for the mineral only, trying to pick off some probes. Going to pick off a bunch of probes. So lame. Wow, those Vultures actually picking off another 4 or 5 probes there after laying down their mines. Jangbi looks like he's going to maybe try and take the 3 o'clock base. And what are you doing, Jangbi? No, don't lose zealot bombs now. Not now. Wait until they siege up. Tanks have to be sieged for zealot bombs to be effective. And Jangbi looks like he's actually trying to use these zealots as mine drags, but they're not really working. I mean, it's hard to drag them that far. So I mean, I don't think it's a very good choice by Jangbi trying to drag mines in rather than using them as normal zealot bombs. He's going to need more zealots. I don't know where his zealots are. He should have been producing them for a while now. As soon as he saw that push, I think he should have known that he needs zealots, and I don't know where they are. Or if he's just plain not producing them. I suspect that he's just plain not producing them. More Vultures coming in here for another attack. Going to try and do another run by here, and will they work? Some zealots in the way. He needs to get into that spot and actually put down a pylon there, so that's going to be very, very important. That pylon's going to stop the Vultures for now, and then he'll just cancel them in a minute. But Ruby has the high ground position, has taken down the mineral-only Nexus. So things are looking very, very bad for Jangbi. I'm just really not too sure what Jangbi was doing this game. There's, it's been a while. There is something off with Jangbi. This is just, I don't really understand what he's trying to do this game. This is not working. I don't know where his zealots are for when the tank push game. Losing the high ground. I mean, that's just that was a position that he could not afford to. I think it's very clear that he should have known that high ground was not something he could sacrifice, and he does so, and he loses 2 base. Hasn't touched the tanks really of Ruby, and is behind economically. He's behind militarily. He's behind on harassment. He's behind in basically every single way at this point in the game. He will have arbiters. I mean, they should be out. I saw the Tribunal a while ago, so there should be arbiters at this point. But it's just not enough at this point. He's lost too much in the pre-arbiter play that I don't know what he's gonna if it's gonna be enough. He does have the arbiter there. See if he went stasis or recall first. Probably stasis, but if he's feeling desperate, he could be going for recalls. And still has that shuttle with the presumably zealot bomb still held within. Could actually just drop them at the 6 o'clock and kill those 2 tanks that are there. Just drop a couple of zealots right on top of those tanks and finish it. A couple of science vessels out for Ruby as well, so he'll be able to counter that that Arbiter. And I think this Arbiter actually has recall, because there's no real other reason for it to be wandering around like that. And it is just going across the top of the map, and where is it going to go? What is it going to try and do? I don't even know what it's going to be. I don't really think it's going to be very successful, because there's a science vessel like right there. So he's going to have to find a way to dodge the science vessel if he wants to go in for the for a recall. But I think a recall for him would be suicidal, to be honest. If he recalls, I think Ruby just attacks and kills off his natural and his main. Like or takes out his 3 o'clock at the very least. I mean, he would definitely be able to take out the 3 o'clock very, very easily. I can't see Jangbi surviving that. So a recall at this point, I mean, it's possible. I just don't think he's got the forces for it. I think it's kind of suicidal. And Jangbi's Dragoons picking off some vultures here before the tanks are able to come in support. Finally, some Zealots being produced, finally being mixed in. I think this is 4 or 5 minutes too late for Zealot rounds to finally be involved. But we will see. The Zealot's going to the top right, trying to harass these 2 bases. That will get cleaned up very, very quickly, because Ruby has so many forces in that area. I hope Jangbi's not thinking about engaging anytime soon up there. He'd have to get a great stasis off and have a lot of Zealots in order to break that push. For that group of forces by Ruby. Ruby not even going on the offensive here, just taking bases, taking these 2 bases at the top right. Looks like he's taking the 9 o'clock as well. So he's just taking bases at this point, and usually this is what Protoss do to Terran players, but Terran's now doing this to Protoss. It's kind of an odd look to the map. If you didn't know better, you would actually probably think that yellow was Protoss and red was Terran, but you'd be wrong. Looking at the map, thinking that way. And here comes a big fight actually at the rally point of Ruby. Nice stasis going off, picking off 4 of the tanks, and there are still a bunch of Zealots alive. They are still streaming in, and the point for Jangbi is how much damage is he going to be able to do before these reinforcements for the main force for Ruby. Looks like Ruby's actually split up his main force. Half of them, or a group of them, coming home, and a group of them is going on the assault, going to take out this 3 o'clock base. There's no way Jangbi's going to be able to keep this 3 o'clock base. That base is going to fall, but he has taken down the a lot of forces at the rally point, and now Jangbi heading in here trying to take down the forces that came in to try and reinforce, and he's going to be able to do that as well. So a nice attack by Jangbi, able to take that down and able to diminish the forces of Ruby quite significantly. Now what he's going to have to do, he's going to have to defend against what's left, and he's going to have to take down as many bases as he can. If he can take down 2 or 3 of these bases at the top right and the 12 o'clock position, if he can take down these bases, maybe he can work his way back into it. This is a huge moment in the game right now. How much damage can Jangbi do in this moment is going to determine whether or not he'll be able to work his way back into it at this point. The attack by Ruby is still going strong, though. Still a lot of tanks, there's still a lot of forces. Looks like this command center is going to go down at the 12 o'clock position. Now those Dragoons need to be used effectively once again. I think they need to move across the right side of the top right and take down those bases, or come on the defense and try and break this push that's coming his way. They have to do something. They can't sit there, that's for sure, and they're definitely not going to be able to attack back into the rally point. Going to be too many forces there. So I think he is going to stream them across the top right, try and take down those 2 bases, and try and just limit both players' economic position. But the problem then becomes, how do you deal with the forces of Ruby that are attacking you? And that stasis is not quite as good, only taking off 1 tank, but the tanks of Ruby are so spread out that was going to be the case. And now it looks like there's the push out of the main, and the Zealots coming in from the back, as well as a couple Dragoons to try and reinforce. And it looks like Jangbi actually is going to clean this up, I believe. Yes, he is going to clean this up. So a nice defense by Jangbi, provided he's able to limit the top right bases, and was able to, I don't know if he's able to take either of them down, though. That's the problem. And the 9 o'clock base is operational now, so I just don't know if it was enough. It was a good attack. I think Jangbi did a lot considering what he was working with. I think Jangbi had a very successful attack, but I just don't know if he has the economy, if he has the forces left to for it to be enough. And now Ruby's reinforcements coming in. Jangbi needs to keep these Zealots alive, needs to retreat them until the Dragoons can come into play, and he needs to retreat them, but no, he's bringing them, he's going to try and break it now. He doesn't have enough, he needs to back up. GG coming from Jangbi. Jangbi not able to hold it. That was a very odd game. Kind of, I definitely question some of Jangbi's decisions there. I think he just macroed too late with the Zealots, and he over Dragoon there in the mid game, and Ruby taking that 6 o'clock and the mineral only, the combination taking on both of those bases, I think was the killing blow, was the turning point of the match. As soon as that happened, Jangbi was in trouble economically, and as much as he did with that attack, I mean, he did micro that his attack very, very well. It was very well thought out and planned considering the position he was in. It just was not enough damage. He did a lot, just was not enough. So Ruby's gonna get the win, fly up in the sky, shining more brilliantly, I think, or rightfully, something like that, is Ruby. He's going to advance into the MSL at 2-1. So Ruby and Mind are your advancers from the Group 10. Jangbi and Action getting knocked out. Yeah, too bad. Jangbi and Action getting knocked out. That's going to be it. Next games that I cast will be the Winners League playoffs. It will be round 2 between SKT and Wasangaz. I incorrectly spoke earlier saying that it was going to be, when Action was playing the first game, I incorrectly thought that it was KT who was going to be playing SKT, but it's actually going to be KT playing the winner next week of SKT and Wasangaz. That was that was my mistake, but yeah. So that's it. You guys should definitely watch. I will cast those as well early on next week once I get the chance. So if you want to watch them beforehand, go ahead. Otherwise, you can wait for my commentaries. And yeah, that's it. That's it for today. I will see you guys all later. Hope you guys enjoyed this MSL group.